While all of the talking heads are yammering on and on about the botched retreat from Kabul, those in the know, those behind the scenes, are only asking themselves one question: what's next? Because make no mistake, these guys are not going to sit on their laurels. They've just come into possession of a giant treasure trove of not only political power, but military equipment. And they do have an ultimate goal. And I would counsel people to be very careful what you wish for with Mr. Biden. Because if he were to exit the world stage, this person would be at the helm. And I'm going to show you guys some stuff today that's probably going to make your blood curdle. It should send a giant shiver down the spine of anyone who hears it. I'm sure a lot of you have not heard of Imam Hassan al-Banna. This is the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood. It is the nature, a quote from this gentleman, it is the nature of Islam to dominate, not to be dominated, to impose its law on all nations and to extend its power to the entire planet. Another quote. The civilization of the West, which was brilliant by virtue of its scientific perfection for a long time, and which subjugated the whole world with the products of this science to its states and nations, is now bankrupt and in decline. Now, this was said way back in the late 40s and 50s. That's how long ago this was, and this is what their plan is. They are going to go from Afghanistan, and they're going to seize the Straits of Hormuz, primarily trying to isolate Iraq. See, they want a restoration of the Levant so that they can, quote-unquote, drive Israel into the sea. They already have everything basically from China north to Russia in all of their control, all the way down here to the Gulf of Oman. And oh, by the way, if anybody's deluding themselves about Oman, I have an article on that too. Afghanistan. Oman Grand Mufti hails Taliban takeover as clear victory. Now, this is the guy who's in charge in Oman. Ahmad al-Khalili described the Taliban's takeover of the country as the fulfillment of God's sincere promise. We congratulate the brotherly Muslim people of Afghanistan for the clear victory and the grand conquering of the aggressor invaders, and we also congratulate ourselves and the entire Islamic nation for the fulfillment of God's sincere promise. This is what's coming. Back to the map. Here is Oman right here, with their allies in Iran, and now with the equipment that they have, their allies in Pakistan. They are going to seize the Gulf of Oman and the Straits of Hormuz. And there's not much we're going to do about it. Now, remember all that oil we were begging for from the Saudis? That ain't going to help. That ain't going to help once they seize Baghdad. Once they seize Iraq, once they seize the oil fields, this group of people is going to be players on the world stage. And they're going to have to be. It's not going to be an option anymore of dealing with them on a level like we deal with other civilized countries. They're going to control enough of the world's oil, and this strategic pass right here, the Strait of Hormuz, it's not going to be an option. They'll be able to bankrupt us. literally overnight, because there's no other way. That's why shutting down that pipeline was part of the plan. Shutting down that pipeline coming out of Canada was part of the plan. This is why I've said there's one person behind the scenes pushing this, and it's actually the vice president. They have U.S. rifles, attack helicopters, both Russian and U.S. now, Super Tucks, close air combat aircraft. The U.S. has been developing these for years. MRAPs, Humvees, APCs, heavy engineering equipment. It's not going to be a problem for them. It's not going to be a problem for them. Now, you're saying, great, Mucky, but what does this have to do with the vice president? The vice president is tied to a front group for the Muslim Brotherhood called CAIR. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with CAIR, CAIR. The Council on American Islamic Relations. The anti-Islamophobia people. This should terrify everyone, because now they're going to push for Biden to be swept out of the way, hand over the nuclear football to this person, and allow this to become fulfilled in the world. The last quote I will say from this individual, the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood. Jihad is not against polytheists alone, but against all who do not embrace Islam. Today, the Muslims are compelled to humble themselves before non-Muslims and are ruled by unbelievers. Their adversaries are in charge of their affairs, and the rights of their religion have fallen into abeyance within their own domains, to say nothing of their impotence to broadcast the summons to embrace Islam. Hence, it has become an individual obligation, which there is no evading, on every Muslim to prepare his equipment, to make up his mind to engage in jihad and to get ready for it. Know then that death is inevitable and that it can only happen once. If you suffer in the way of God, it will be your profit in this world and your reward in the next. This is what they're doing. This has always been the goal. This has always been the goal. Once they control the world's oil, and they can start to affect the price, they're going to control the price of everything. And the Saudis will fall in line. And you know what that means? That leaves one place left that they don't control yet to get oil. Man, wouldn't it be great if we had an ally in South America that had unbelievable amounts of oil? Wouldn't that be great if we had perhaps just put aside our differences on economic direction and worked with our neighbors in this hemisphere instead of demonizing them? And make no mistake, this has been the greatest geopolitical miscalculation in history. I've said that before, and I'll say it again now, and now it's come to fruition. The fact that we have made the Venezuelans an enemy is going to have long-lasting ramifications, because if they ever do agree, again, to deal with us with oil, it's going to be expensive. And Venezuela will become one of the, if not the richest country on the planet. But there's another problem. And it's right here. I said this thing was a setup, and it looked way too convenient when it all happened. And now we know why. Now that they have Kabul, next stop Afghanistan, next stop Baghdad, the Gulf, the Straits of Hormuz, and then once they have that level of political leverage, it's going to be over. Just wanted to give you guys a intel report today on what's really coming down the pipe. This is what's coming. These guys are getting ready to move. They're going to gun up, arm up with their allies in Iran, their allies in Pakistan. They now control that whole swath of land. All of it. Everything from here's Pakistan, here's Afghanistan, here's Iran, and here's Oman. That's all they really need. You got the UAE here, but they're not going to stop anything. They're going to control this whole region, and then they're going to take Iraq. And then they'll have all of it. This will all be one giant Islamic caliphate that's going to be in possession of huge amounts of military hardware and technology and most of the world's oil, other than what's in South America. And we've kind of messed up our relationships down there. So I will leave it there. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. And we will see you guys tonight on Twitch.